Good morning. I am John Muchler, the pastor of the Ferndale Alliance Church. Thank you for joining us while we're studying Christ Climbing Club. Disciples joining Jesus climbing the mountain to hear this sermon that we've called the Sermon on the Mount. We are in Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, which says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." That has got to be one of the most difficult verses in the Bible to understand. And I want to start this morning by saying something very loud and very clear. In the Bible, meekness is not weakness. Meek people, like Jesus, did not boast that they were masters of the universe, rather that they were masters of their own lives, and that their power was their humility. Again, meekness is not weakness, but it's the ability to not boast that you might be master of the universe, but that you have control over your personal heart and soul. Meekness, in a sense, is humility. And there is certainly a future aspect to this verse, as there has been in the first three verses. Inherit the earth. What does that mean? Well, you remember Jesus started out by saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," those that are broken, those that are aware of their need for God, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Then the next verse, in verse 4, it says, "Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted." And ultimately, we are comforted on that day. Revelations chapter 21 tells us when every tear will be removed, every sadness, every grief, and we'll live with the Lord in peace and wholeness forever. And finally, our verse today, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." That had to have been a difficult verse for the disciples to hear. They were living at a time when their nation wasn't even free. The nation of Israel had been taken over, first of all, by the Persians and the Greeks and the Romans, and they were in captivity and remained in captivity for a long time. And Jesus is promising them that there is the inheritance of the earth. Certainly there's a future aspect to all of these promises. So Jesus is, we hear a verse like that, "Blessed are the meek." And it doesn't seem like it's the meek that get control of the earth. We think of the Attila the Huns, the Napoleons, the Julius Caesars, and the Hannibals, and then even Emperor Titus, who ruled the Roman Empire. He was the one that came into Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem and destroyed the temple in AD 70. Predicted, by the way, by Jesus in words that were recorded before it happened. And so it seems like in our world, it's the strong, it's the mighty, it's the military that inherit the earth. Clearly something more is going on here, and we need to think about it for a few minutes. The word meek is a hard word. I'm not sure we would call somebody meek today. It's hard to find a better word, perhaps. If we could combine gentleness with humility, we might get it. But I wrote down some contrasting pairs of words. Those that are meek, those that are not meek in terms of biblical language. And by the way, only two people in the Bible are called meek. And they were certainly not weak. Jesus is one, calls himself meek. And the other is Moses. So, a meek person is kind as opposed to mean. Gracious as opposed to harsh. Gentle, not a bully. Soft-spoken as opposed to loud. Self-assured, not self-absorbed. Deferential, not demanding. Secure, not insecure. He's a healer, not a herder. A servant, not a controller. Conciliatory, not vindictive. Content, not envious. And so Jesus says this is the virtue that he wants people to have in their lives, to be meek, to be humble, to be gentle. And he tells us that we are the ones that will ultimately inherit the earth. What may not be recognized about this verse, this little saying, is that Jesus is actually referencing a very well-known psalm. Psalm 37, written by King David. A psalm is sort of like a carefully crafted musical poem. And this psalm is quite long. I'm just going to read, I think, the first 11 verses. You will hear in there references to meek and to those that inherit the earth. Verse 1, do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. We've been like that since we were kids. Envying people that seem to be the bullies, that seem to be the mean kids, that seem to be the bad boys. There is something attractive about, we call them bad boys, and we envy them. We kind of look up to them, and sometimes they become leaders. But David goes on and says, for like the grass, they will soon wither, and like green plants, they will soon die away. But trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land, enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Better than being an evildoer, a wicked person, an arrogant person, is someone who delights in pleasing God. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. This is a faith and trust in God that he will make things right. He will deal justly with everybody, with the wicked and with the righteous. That day may come today, it may come tomorrow, it may come in the future, but the scriptures promise that the Lord will bring it about. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. It's hard to be patient, isn't it? It's hard to be patient when you want things to be right now. When we want things to be corrected now. We want that person to get what they deserve now. And we want to get what we think we deserve now. It's hard to be patient, but God says be patient. And again, do not fret, this is verse 7, when people succeed in their ways. I think that's true weakness, true meekness. True meekness is noting that people are successful that are maybe not good people, but we don't fret about it. We don't get upset about it. We realize that, as the scripture says elsewhere, God brings his good rain and his sunshine on both the evil and the good. Don't fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. That's a meek person. A meek person has the power and the ability and the reason to be angry and bring about vengeance, but they choose not to. Refrain from anger, turn from wrath, do not fret. It leads only to evil. When we exercise uncontrolled anger, the wrong kind of anger, it just brings more evil. For those that are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. There's our verse. They will inherit the land. A little while, and the wicked will be no more, and though you look for them, they will not be found. But, here we go, but the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity. So once again, meekness is not weakness. It is the ability to be master of our own personal universe, our own passions, our own temperament, our own biases and prejudices. It's the ability to be self-controlled, not self-absorbed. So let's practice being meek, and let's trust God, and let's live this day as different people in the midst of this pandemic, when perhaps some of the lesser natures, the lesser angels of our nature want to rule. Let's let those better angels of our nature rule, as Abraham Lincoln taught us. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.